The success of Made in India systems during Operation Sindoor has been very much a highlight of India's operations against Pakistan. And joining us now to tell us his thoughts about some of the weapon systems and the strategy that India deployed in Op Sindoor in the fight against Pakistan, John Spencer. He's among the world's foremost defense analysts. Thanks very much, John, for being with us. When I was on the line of control just a couple of days back, the key message which I was told by Indian soldiers was that when you've got any number of incoming drones, it's not always possible to fire off surface-to-air missiles, which is why older technology also has an important role to play when it comes to taking on drones. How is this a pragmatic way of dealing with the threat which we saw emerge from Pakistan in the last couple of weeks?
I mean, it's very pragmatic, and I study a war around the world, and there's so many aspects of this that are very revealing and surprising. I mean, war is always the ultimate test, and even watching Indian generals talk about rehearsing a drone swarm attack days before Pakistan actually launched it, and all the different components. I'm an infantryman by trade, but understanding all the different components of radar and all the electronic warfare systems and active protection, but also the ability to lethally hit an incoming drone or missile. I know it's very sophisticated, but to see made in India products being incorporated and to be so effective, and I think what we've seen in Operation Sindoor was, not all talk, it was all action, and the effectiveness of all these systems combined together in a layered defense, because I know it's not one magic thing, although we can talk about the BrahMos missile and other things, but it's not one magic device. This is a few years, India turning the military-industrial base around and implementing different systems in a very effective, cost-effective as well system that showed to be effective against Chinese and other types of products.
No, I think that's an interesting point, because there's been a fair amount of criticism of the indigenous or the Indian defense sector, that they've been very slow, they've been behind the curve, there have been delays in government orders, and that may all be true, but it does appear that there's been a great deal of progress which has been made. So India's been typically one of the largest importers of weaponry in the world, but based on what you are seeing, there's been a sense, would you agree, of the indigenous capacity to build weaponry really come to the front and showcase that prowess against Pakistan, right?
100%. And I also know, understanding where it started in 2014 at a 14% make in India and advancing that all the way up to 65%. So it's not just making amazing products, but it's doing it at scale as well, because having been to India, having been to many locations, I know it's a very, very big country, and be able to protect the line of defense, protect the Golden Temple and places like that, you're talking about a massive area where you need the ability to scale military industrial equipment. And that was shown again to be effective, and what India decided before this has been paid off. And for a lot of militaries, imagining the future of warfare is really hard for them, and what systems to invest in and everything. It appears, and I'm actually will be on the ground next month to learn more, but it appears that India made many decisions that basically proved to be true and the right decisions.
There's also been very high tech which has also been used. I asked this because I began by speaking about low-cost solutions, which makes sense in this kind of fight anywhere. But at the end of the day, it was the really high, the relatively high cost and high tech solutions that, in a way, pushed Pakistan to come to the ceasefire table. I'm talking specifically about the attacks on air bases. So, you were talking about the BrahMos missile. There are other systems as well, a few of them Israeli systems. But all of those high-tech solutions ultimately brought Pakistan to the ceasefire table, right?
Absolutely. I mean, just a demonstration of the air power and all the jets that were in the sky with beyond visual range, but also what the BrahMos at Mach 3 is able to do, and no defense against all of these systems. And again, I know that in the BrahMos it was very impressive and showed to be effective against even advanced air defense systems. But I know it was a combination of air detection, electronic warfare, radar on the Indian fighter jets, that makes all of that possible. But yes, these high tech, although, again, I travel the world, so I know that all warfare is a combination of very effective new technology, but also the old technology being maintained and utilized in those ground systems. You need it all. And India just demonstrated how you combine new, very advanced, made in India products with other products that are older, but still showing effective, to include even ground-based radar.
How do you assess the performance of Chinese weapon systems in this brief war? I mean, if I use that word, most people don't, but it's limited. But how would you assess, Chinese weapon systems?
Yeah, I mean, talk is talk. Satellite imagery is what it is. So I view that Chinese systems as ineffective against Indian systems. I'm not saying they're not effective against a range of capabilities, but India demonstrated that even when you have advanced Chinese systems, they are able to hit what they want when they want. And I'll stand by that, because India hit all 11 sites that they wanted to hit and send a message, not overwhelming destruction, but send a message that they could penetrate those Chinese systems. And it's a word of caution too, because I'm sure the Chinese and the Pakistanis will get together and try to see how they were penetrated, and their systems weren't as superior as they had sold Pakistan that they were. So they'll make adjustments. So this isn't over in having that overwhelming military superiority, we call it overmatch, that India has over these Chinese systems, but clear demonstration of the ability to by stuff blowing up on satellite imagery.
Let's talk a little bit about drones deployed by India. Many of these are made in India drones. Even the Harop drone, which is an Israeli design, is actually made in India. The Sky Striker as well. In terms of the operations which you saw, how important were these sophisticated drones? Because drones, as you know, come in all shapes and sizes and capabilities. But in terms of suicide munitions, which is what the Harop and the Sky Striker are, what role did they play?
Yeah, they played a big role in the. And again, having studied the Harap in the second battle, Nagorno-Karabakh war, it's a very effective loitering munition that can stay up for a long amount of time, reduces your risk on fighter jets and fighter pilots, but also can play in an integrated role of an attack like this, where they target those air defense systems because they are cheaper, but very advanced, can go over great distances and stay up for a long time. So both the Striker and the Harap played a role in this integrated attack, because you have to be able to take out the radar systems and the capabilities that would stop you from your but they saved Indian lives. They're cost effective, and they're really hard to defeat. But again, India showed that they could defeat the Turkish drones and other systems that are similar, but not in an integrated fashion, the way that India integrated them.
What I found interesting, and this is a story I did, 3 days back, is that in as much as we talk about, all of the drones which went in and the missiles which went in, I was in a frontline position on the line of control in the Akhnur sector, talking with soldiers on tanks. And India fought with tanks as well. They didn't cross the international border or the line of control, but they went right up to the line and they used that as well. How would you reflect on the fact that, when the Indian attack took place, it involved everything. The Navy had a role, perhaps not offensive, but certainly defensive. Army tanks were firing on terrorist ingress routes as well, and then drones and missiles, which we've spoken about. How was it a complete, armed forces effort? It wasn't restricted in that sense.
Right, exactly. And I hope that's the message that even India takes, that, of course, the Air Force demonstrated a superior capability, but both in both the defense with the ground-based systems, everything from tanks to artillery to the soldiers manning the ground-based radar, that this is India is a joint military with joint capabilities, and you couldn't have pulled off a 4-day decisive victory like this without all of those working simultaneously and in harmony, which is the ultimate kind of PhD level of warfare, is when you can fight joint warfare and you combine them all to be this effective. And put soldiers at risk, but brave soldiers with the capabilities integrated across a joint force. And that's why that pressure with all the commanders from the ground, the air, and the naval was an important one, showing how each of one integrated with each other to provide a vital component where it wouldn't have worked if you didn't have each one doing their part, but also at scale and with effectiveness.
A final question to you. It's been several years now that India and the United States have worked together, not just at the strategic level, but also at the tactical level. I'm talking about military exercises. You've been an infantryman yourself. It's been a bit of a crawl, walk, run sort of evolution of that military association through joint exercises. How does America assess India as a potential war-fighting partner?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm going to continue to look at it. I mean, I was on the ground in 2019 with India's research centers, India's military, walking the attacks in Mumbai, learning from India, and so that we could take the lessons. I know the relationship is strong, and as you said, it has gone up and down. With this shift, as I wrote in my article, I think there's a lot of things that India demonstrated from the strategic down to the tactical that could improve the U.S. military relationships and the way we do things. I think the relationship is strong, but hopefully this is a demonstration that it improves as we look into how did India do this and those relationships increase, because this is this no nuclear blackmail, this fight against terrorism, that's a global concern, and that's why I want to learn more, and I'll be on the ground because I think that there's a lot that the U.S. military and the U.S. government can learn from this event. Controlled response to terrorism and putting a red line saying no more will we allow this proxy low intensity terrorism against a state actor.
All right, thanks very much, John. Great speaking to you, and great to hear your thoughts on how this conflict went. Thank you very much indeed.